well, don't you think if I were wrong, I would know it? End quote. That's the epitome, that's the theme of idiots everywhere, right? And I never want to be that guy. I always want to be the guy that's constantly assuming I am wrong. Because if I'm wrong, that gives me the opportunity to learn something new, showing that I'm open-minded. Closed-minded people, on the other hand, assume that they're right and the other person's always wrong, and that's not who I want to be. So I read this comment, I accept it as a challenge, and maybe I need to rethink this, but the comments will help give me more direction on this. So I received a comment 2 days ago from Brigham, who has, looks like Iowa State as his little icon. He commented on the video, question and answer, what am I doing to prevent hair loss? 5 things. He said this, quote, Nick, as far as your Asian hair loss theory, I attend a major public university with over 35,000 students. Of those, about 2,500 are Asian or of Asian descent. I see a lot of bald Asian men here. I know you always say your theories are only accurate 80% of the time and do have their outliers, but the number of bald or balding Asian men that I see isn't far off from the number of Caucasian balding men. Food for thought, that's all, end quote. Thank you. And if it is going to be food, remember, I am a vegan. And as of March 6th, it'll be 5 years of me being the manly vegan. So food must be vegan. If you want me to eat it, you can eat whatever you want. No judgment here. Because again, a man who is open-minded doesn't want to force his beliefs on other people. So I want you to keep eating hot dogs, Arby's, and Captain D's. That's your assignment. You need to go to one of those places today. Not just our friend Brigham, but everyone watching this video. You have to eat a hot dog. I'll let you eat Taco Bell or a steak or Arby's. Those are your options. You have to eat one of those things by the end of the day before the clock strikes midnight. So as I'm reading this comment, here's what I'm thinking. Maybe it's a perception issue that I've had. You know, because I based all of this off of me teaching English 2 summers in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand, to be specific, Non-Tabari, Global English School. You can Google it, you can find where I worked for 2 summers. And that was when I noticed that so many middle-aged Asian men, Thai men, 50s, 60s, and still had most of their hair. Like a lot of them, as much hair as I still have, but they'd be in their 50s and 60s. And I just, here in America, I don't see as much of that. But I think, like Brigham said, well, if you're specifically looking for that, and in your mind you think that Asian men aren't balding, maybe that's what you see. Maybe if you're looking for balding Asian men, maybe you see them more. Just the same thing with Caucasian, white guys. You know, there's a lot of white guys who have zero hair loss issues. But we don't focus on that as much. And also I have to consider too that I believe that Asian men are less susceptible to male pattern baldness, but they're more susceptible to diffuse thinning. So they could have a Norwood 1, but they could have lots of thinning like over here. And that's still part of the balding process. And it's still going to emotionally and psychologically affect you, perhaps in the same exact way it would affect a white guy who has male pattern baldness. So balding is balding, whether it's one form of another. And maybe definitely I'm onto something about that Asian men are less likely to grow a full beard, especially early in life. But maybe that's just connected to the fact that they're less likely to have male pattern baldness, and instead their balding tends to be diffuse thinning. I'm making this video to say I'm open-minded to exploring my understanding of the difference between how Asian men go bald versus how the rest of us do. Whether it's European, Jewish, Middle Eastern, Indian, everybody else, compared to Asian, I just feel that Asian men definitely go bald in a different way, and they have facial hair. It's different. But ultimately, if balding is balding, maybe it's just that I was looking for male pattern baldness and I wasn't paying as much attention to diffuse thinning. So I'm making this video to say maybe I'm wrong and maybe I need to reevaluate how I'm perceiving how Asian men go bald. And I know that with over 3,000 subscribers, I've got lots of Asian subscribers because you've commented to me and you've shared with me your story. And especially those of you who are actually in Asia and tell me how tragic it is that in Asia, there's so much ridicule for men who are noticeably balding, which reinforce my theory that Asian men are less likely to go bald sooner. But again, maybe we're not talking about male pattern. Maybe we're talking more about the fuse. I think there's a lot of loose ends here, a lot of moving parts. And I just wanted to host this discussion so that we can talk about it further. So I've got the 0 guard right now. By the time I make a sequel, I may already be at the number 2 guard. But I want us to carry on this conversation. I think that I was only scratching the surface. I think there's more for me to learn about how Asian men go bald. And maybe I was just looking for the wrong kind of balding. And maybe I was a little bit blind to all the white guys who haven't lost their hair. And I was hyper-focusing on the Asian men who haven't lost their hair. Maybe I'm missing some things in the gaps here. So educate me, enlighten me, because my mind is open and my head is buzzed with a 0 guard.